Friends, on the occasion of Lodi, Makar Shakrandi, Pongal, Bihu, let me wish you and all your family best wishes from Delhi. I'm at the Youth Congress office. We had a problem on the live. We are back in action. An excellent team in the Youth Congress is at work. And I'm happy that the youngsters have shown that enthusiasm that we have not seen for some time. I've been invited to speak on Rafale. The Rafale deal, it's called. Now, interestingly, I did a little research into the word Rafale. It has its origin from the word Raphael, Saint Raphael. And if you examine it further, it has a Judaism link, Christianity, and also Islamic link. In Islamic tradition, it's called, the saint is called Isa Raphael. He's the saint who heals. He's an archangel. And he's supposed to be the guardian angel. But unfortunately for the government, the NDA government, Saint Raphael, or the name Raphael, has turned out to be a nightmare. Strange reasons. There were 136 aircrafts to be purchased during the UPA period. Every tendering process was undertaken. All the due process of law, every issue was addressed. There was a tendering process. Rafale turned up to be the best. We got the best price. We got a technology transfer and the best state-of-art aircrafts to be in India. Probably the first set would have already arrived 2019. And what happens? In the intervening period, we have a situation where our government moves out of office and comes in the NDA dispensation. The NDA dispensation was quiet in the beginning. Then we saw a scene where the Prime Minister himself saying that the deal is to be revived and the earlier deal was cancelled. Fair enough. A new process was started. But this process was strange. There was no consent. The Defense Ministry, the Air Force was not consulted. The demand was for 136 aircrafts. And the Prime Minister arbitrarily travels to France and says that he needs 36 aircrafts. Whom did he consult? This is a democracy. You don't take decisions of this kind without due clearances from your cabinet colleagues. And no, he didn't bother. He ordered for 36 and said they are the state of art. Mind you, they're the same aircrafts and same equipment, and the quantity was cut down to 36. Was there somewhere a compromise with the national security? The demand of the Air Force was for aircrafts in that quantity as mentioned by the UPA. And lo behold, you had the Defense Minister not traveling to Paris. He was literally fishing in Goa. The information I had was in Goa he was selling fish at a government stall. The point is, the Defense Minister deliberately disassociated himself from the so-called deal. And in retrospect, we can see he was collecting the right papers all the time. He was trying to save himself. And that is coming to public record. We produced that tape in Parliament. They did not allow it. In which The defense minister says, I have all the papers connected with Rafale in my bedroom. This is what he states in the cabinet and repeated by his cabinet minister, the health minister. Be what it may, the prices went up 300 times. And for what? Our simple question is, why this price tripled 300 times? And the argument was that Rahul ji did not know anything about aircrafts. And that is the learned the finance minister of this country. He says Rahul ji does not know anything about aircrafts. The reality is Rahul ji is a trained commercial pilot and he can teach the finance minister not only a little finance but also how to fly a plane. The question is, would he take a ride? Rahul ji will not be taken for a ride by a lawyer turned finance minister who's messed up with the economy, all right, who's responsible for the demonetization. You can put it on his doorstep. And what did you see? You saw a deal with 300% increase in price. And what does the defense minister say? That there is a security clause in it in which she cannot name the price. But the price was already in public domain. Dassault had it. And where? In their annual report. But Rahul ji did not quote the annual report. While we put it on record, Rahul ji was quoting Arun Jaitley ji. And when you don't need space technology to know that if 36 aircrafts cost a given value, you can make out how much an aircraft would cost. And that is what Rahul ji submitted. The finance minister was rattled. Situation came to such a pass that the house was almost paralyzed. The Prime Minister stopped attending the House. And how do you expect in democracy the so-called transparency that he claims? He's always said, na khaunga na khane dunga. Now this was not about khaunga or khane dunga. This was all about sellout. And sellout of Indian security. The Indian Air Force was compromised. You need 136 aircrafts and you were given 36. And there were army generals playing the tune what the Prime Minister wanted to listen. The matter went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court mentioned that prices were beyond its jurisdiction. Be what it may, we are not questioning the orders of the Supreme Court. But yes, what they said was very simple. They said that was beyond their jurisdiction. So, the finance minister, the learned lawyer, stands up in parliament and says, Supreme Court has cleared it and look at the Congress. Maybe Congress has some interest in the rivals. The competitor. Can you imagine an argument of that order? Coming from a learned lawyer. We never contested the quality and the product of Rafale. We questioned the pricing. Simple question. And in the offset enterprise, in which there was a crony capitalist. I must say, the Ericsson company is suing him and has asked the Supreme Court to arrest him. He's defaulted many a lot. He just cannot run anything. He was given the business of running a train, metro train in Delhi. Metro train from Connaught Place to the airport. Within a year, the system collapsed He was not able to run it. And this man has not produced a nut, a needle. And you give him 3,000 crore deal and put the defense system in his hands. And whom do you deprive of that experience and the tradition? The Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, which has been in joint venture for any aircraft. The dates, the cut-offs, everybody from Foreign Secretary to the CEO had said that we are in conversation with HAL. And one bright morning we hear HAL is out of business. And why? We are giving it to an enterprise which has not produced a needle. If this is not corruption, please tell me, how do you spell the word corruption, which I think is what it comes to. This is crony capitalism crossing all limits. The question is, why was it given to this industrialist? What are the interests? What is the so-called chowkidar of this country doing? Is there a direct compromise with the national security? They talk about nationalism. If this is not an anti-national activity, please tell me what is. Somebody with no experience in manufacturing aircrafts, you pay them advance money, no guarantees, no sovereign guarantees. The file has notings from the Defense Ministry, from the Law Ministry. They're all overlooked. We presented that in public domain. And I'm sure copies of that exist with Parekarji. In his bedroom, of course. But the point remains, nobody is raising any questions. HAL has been deprived of basic funds to pay salaries. And there's a spokesman of the Bharatiya Janata Party who says that this is a beginning of a cashless situation. Salaries are not paid. And this is the kind of brainless declarations coming from the spokesman of the Bharatiya Janata Party. What kind of employment we could have generated? And this PSU, which has been delivering. The defense minister stands up in parliament and says that the money is in the pipeline. Will somebody turn around and ask her which pipeline is this money coming from? Why is this PSU starved of funds? Because there is a crony capitalist sucking the blood of this nation. And if we don't raise these questions, what are we doing in the opposition party? And there was a threat perception that this issue may be inquired by the CBI. So the chowkidar gets activated and the thanedar is dismissed. Can you beat this? I'm not against any chowkidar. The community as it is full of integrity. But amongst those chowkidars, there is a chore. And that's the cat situation. You can't let the country go this way. If your defenses are down, this country is in serious trouble. And that's precisely what's happening. This is what Rafale is all about. The Rafale deal is an epitome of corruption, where no investigation takes place. Neither the CBI if they attempt to do it, they lose their job. And there is a pliable CVC I dare say that. He was rewarded for a job he did in Gujarat. And there you are, an upright officer is asked to leave. And what praise is crime? A threat perception that he might investigate the Rafale deal. Pure fear. Rattled they are. We will continue asking questions. Why not a JPC? Why are you running away from a JPC? We'll need files to check it out. What are the file notings? What is the official positions that have come out? And why was the price raised? Very simple 5 questions asked by Rahulji. And no answers forthcoming. This is about the status of Rafale deal. I would also like to dwell on the economic situation in this country. The country has seen 2 surgical strikes by this government. One was in terms of what was termed as demonetization. That evening at 8 p.m., an announcement came that, well, the money in your pocket will turn into a paper. That was not the Prime Minister's money. That was the people's earned money, their own money. You have created a situation where the hard-earned money of the common man has been turned into paper. They had to stand in lines trying to recover the money. And what was the situation? 150 people dead. Was there a condolence message from the Prime Minister of India for those who died waiting for their own money? The point is, this is a country where you have no consultation process. And he says this warning was given a year before. Pray, I don't know what kind of a warning. And you wait for your money. You stand in lines. Banks don't have the money to offer. To take your own money. It's not somebody else's money. Marriages were cancelled. That was in the middle of the marriage season. People went through hardship. It was hell. That was over. That was not enough, as if it destroyed the informal sector. It destroyed them to such an extent. They said that this would be a cashless society where you use cards. But there must be connectivity. This is a huge country. First have connectivity, then go in for this cashless society. Didn't work. It failed miserably. Then they said black money. And lo behold, every penny that was demonetized came back to them. And the RBI remained counting even today. Has not completed counting. And there's huge sums of money held up in Nepal. While all this was happening, there were people on fishing expeditions. The cooperative bank in Gujarat was minting. And who, pray, was the chief of those cooperative banks? It's in public domain. At a commissioned rate, these banks were operating, and there was under-table dealing, and huge money was being processed. The Bharatiya Janata Party went into buying property spree in West Bengal 48 hours before demonetization. And most interesting factor was that next day after the demonetization announcement came in, there were full-page ads of an enterprise called Paytm. Try inserting an ad in a newspaper with 6 hours notice. That too front page. I am not suggesting that they had information. I am suggesting they had full information. I am suggesting that these companies were hand in glove. They had these front page ads. Then the charge was that this would affect the next slide moment. The extremists will all be affected. Within a couple of hours, raids were conducted on extremists, and the freshly minted notes were available with them while people were still waiting in lines. Next slide moment was as it went through the same processes. Nothing happened. Where was the black money? Nothing arrived. But yes, a lot of people made huge money. And that was the biggest scam that we have seen in this part of Asia. The biggest scam, which needs investigation. But the point is, there will be no investigation in these cases as long as the NDA government is in place. It is one of the biggest scams that this country has seen and people have suffered. Followed by another attack with the GST. They said it's a Congress idea. Brilliant, it was a Congress idea. But the scheme of things was entirely different. They did not consult us. If they had, it's like you try to read books of medicine and let the quacks read it. You have quacks operating on the GST. And today, you've seen it. You've seen what's happening across the country. And they tweaked it in Gujarat. They're tweaking it now. If it was all that perfect, why are they doing that? The issue is much more larger. This government is not concerned about the common man. There are other issues. The currency fall. The fall of the Indian rupee. To what plight did it go? There was a quote of the Prime Minister at that time. I think it was on Twitter. He said that, the price of rupee would go down to the same age as the Prime Minister of India, then Prime Minister of India, Dr. Manmohan Singh. We were not so bad at it. We didn't ask him the question that whether the currency would stop at his age. The reality is it happened. Then investment stopped. Petroleum prices, when prices were internationally low, prices in India was rising. And to top it all, you had a situation where petrol that was processed, refined, was sold at half the price in various other countries. The same Indian refinery oil was available in other parts of the world at half the price. What is happening in this country? Somebody needs to explain. And I think the jury is out. People are asking questions. They may give reservation here, they may give reservation there. But that doesn't cut any ice. People know this government is a big jumla and this is the biggest disaster that India was not expecting, and it happened. This is a disaster that India never anticipated, but we've all woken. The jury is out. The next election is an indicator of what's going to happen.
You receive questions?
Yes.
Rohit.
Any questions that...
Rohit Dogra, what makes you say that our economy is in doldrums today?
This is precisely what I've been saying for all this time. I've red flagged almost all the issues, from demonetization to GST to the fall of the rupee, petroleum prices, and the other thing is essentially investments have stopped. Then there's unemployment. Employment is one thing. Here you have people who are employed who are losing out. So you don't have a situation where 2 crore jobs are generated. You have a situation where people who were employed and were funded by the informal sector have lost their jobs. There's no investment. People don't have money. This is the situation. That's why I said it's in doldrums. And I've been saying that during my discourse.
Mukesh Singh, Why is that we don't find Narendra Modi addressing any press conference even after 4.5 years of his tenure, especially after all the allegations on Rafael being personally aimed at Modi ji?
Well, the questions are going to be very sharp. It's not difficult and difficult for anybody to raise issues because they're all in public domain. And the press is sharp. It's a different story that the media managers will try to manage. But how much of headlines will you grab? Ultimately, the truth will speak. And when he's asked questions and when he cannot answer them, you will have a situation where he has to avoid the press. And the day he addresses the press, that's the day when the story will be out.
Adil Raja, why did the government lie on offering contracts worth 1 lakh crore to HAL, whereas HAL seemed to borrow money to pay salaries to his employees?
Lies are the highest point of debate or any conversation that this government has, not just outside, but in Parliament. They state not just white lies. These lies, that orders are being given to them, they're all in the pipeline. And what pipeline? There's a leakage somewhere. Who's taking the money that was due to HAL? And they are in a situation where they don't have money to pay the salaries. And the issue is not just that. The issue here is spokesmen are trained to say that PSUs are being trained to deal with a cashless society. Can you hear anything more stupid than this?
Ankesh Yadav, how would have the transfer of technology benefited HAL and the country as well?
Well, you talk about make in India. It's your concept, not the Indian National Congress. We always wanted to make in India. But you said that's your priority. Where has make in India gone? 36 aircrafts to come in straight without technology transfer. It would have gone a long step in strengthening the Indian system. When you have technology transfer, you spend so much of money, you can at one stage manufacture those same aircrafts. And lo behold, that is not given to the HAL. And they were one of the most competent PSUs that could do the job and has been doing it for some time. And what has happened? They are now trying to wind up HAL by starving them of funds, because good people will leave when they don't get their salaries. And then there will be this shop that the crony capitals will establish, and these people with experience will probably migrate to them. That is their hope. And that's a hope in hell, because people have much more integrity than this government.
Dilshir, which side would win an air battle? 36 plane or 126 plane? So who played with the security of the nation?
The Indian Armed Forces, the Indian Navy, the Indian Air Force are extremely competent. When they ask for 136 aircrafts, that is for additional precaution, so that in case of a defense operation, they have more aircrafts. But if it comes to a battle, they are extremely competent to handle any situation. They don't need this 36 aircrafts that's being given as some kind of a favor to them. They need 136. Where they need 136, you need to provide it. But I'm proud of the Indian Army, the Indian Navy and the Air Force. There's no question that they cannot fight. They are competent and one of the best forces in the world.
Durgesh, Rafael is a prime example of crony capitalism, which is furthering economic divide in our country. Do you think the defense sector should have been privatized?
Well, there's nothing wrong. Again, we are not against privatization. The percentages could be controlled. Strategic areas which involve security management need not be completely privatized. You can't have countries who have interests other than our interests to come into our system and control it. You can do privatization to a limited extent, but not a blanket 100% and you put them into prime sectors. That, I think, need to be rethought and readdressed.
Rao Vikas Sawala, Prasant Bhushan, Arun Shourie and Yashwant Sinha are respected scholars and they believe 100% that a scam has happened in the deal. Why did people with no vested interest as a political party get involved in this issue?
Every level-headed person in this country is disturbed. Disturbed at the very fact that this kind of issues have long and lasting effect on the country. Arun Shourie belonged to the BJP, Yashwant Sinha belonged to the BJP. These are people, Prashant Bhushan was an independent person, but he is a citizen who is conscious of his rights and would like to uphold these rights of the people who cannot voice their concern. And these are people who have raised their voices. And these are people who will continue raising their voices whichever government is in place. That is the quality of some of the Indian citizens who are active and articulate. And they will continue to protest, and I think it's a good step in the good direction.
Manoj Takmahi, don't you believe that India's citizens' doubts should be cleared by initiating a JPC, as we live in a 21st century democratic nation?
That is our humble demand. We have demanded a JPC, but this government will run away from JPC because they will stand exposed. The fig leaf that this government has will be blown away by the winds of JPC. That is what we are asking. And that's a democratic constitutional position. What's wrong in asking for a JPC? Didn't they ever ask for JPCs? We have given them the JPC, whether it was Bofors, whether it was other issues, it was the 2G, 3G, 4G, whatever, we gave them that and let things come into public domain. That's democracy. But you say that you're honest, you're not corrupt, and you don't want an investigation to follow. And that's exactly what happens finally. That you are labelled as a government that is the mother of corruption.
Sikandar, Subramanian Swamy blamed Arun Jaitley for putting the Indian economy in a tailspin, also quoting that he did not understand failed decisions like the demonetization and implementation of the GST. Is the current government to blame for the economic crisis that is casting its shadow over the nation today?
Well, what Subramanian Swamy does or says are loaded with his self-interest. He has an axe to grind with the finance minister. I am taking no sides. So he is looking for a position as the next finance minister, and he's fishing in troubled waters. So I don't go by what Subramanian Swamy says. If you said Mr. Arun Shourie or Bhushan said something, I would take them seriously. But Subramanian Swamy is an opportunist who has looked for occasions and has fought against people just to meet ends which justify his day-to-day existence.
Akki John, Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, in its recent report on jobs in India has shown that the number of those underemployed in India is rising each passing years. Whom do you blame for this?
What are we talking about underemployment? At least they have jobs. The Employers Act, the pink slip threat, the informal sector has been destroyed. The reality is what will happen is underemployment for years together because the jobs are not there. Now you offer 10% reservation. 10% reservation from what? That small piece of cake in which you are competing with the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, the OBCs. No jobs. And still you want people to dream. And what they call as aspirational dreams. That yes, you will have a future in this country. We have a future, we will have a future, but minus this government.
Pooja Maurya, why did the government propose Anil Ambani's company for the Rafael deal, which was established only a few days prior to the deal?
Pooja, you must address this question to the Prime Minister. He is the only man who can tell us the secret of his love for this crony capitalist. We are asking for a JPC. Maybe at some point of time, we will be able to get somewhere near the truth. Maybe you can address it directly to him, because the Congress party has no answers. We know why it has been done, but then he's busy filing cases against all our spokesmen. They've received that kind of money. If he had, he would have paid the Ericsson company, who has now moved the court. The point here is, everybody and his uncle knows why this capitalist crony.
But according to CMIE, over more than 11 million jobs were lost in 2018 and 19 alone. Of it, 9.1 million were lost in rural areas and 1.8 million in urban areas. Don't you think PM Modi's economic policies are devoid of ground realities?
They're not just devoid of ground realities, they are devoid of economic issues. These are quacks who are manning the economic ministry. From time to time, you hear the RBI governor under threat. You hear the economic advisor wanting to quit. And he has openly said that demonetization was a draconian step. And if you check out, you'll realize the entire finance ministry and the economic people looking after economic affairs are fully aware who are these advisors and where do they come from and what knowledge of economics they have. We have an economically illiterate advisors to the Prime Minister on the economy.
Rahul Ranjan, it is said that economic slowdown after demonetization cost India about 2.4 lakh crore in GDP. Don't you believe that such money could have been used for the upheaval of farmers and other sectors who need our help?
According to initial reports, the report was that about 2% fall in the GDP, and it would have its consequences later. And that's happening. And if that did not happen, you're right. We could have used it for our farmers, we could have used it in those sectors where infrastructure was required and where there was no jumlas involved. The different industries where employment could be generated, it could have been done. That 8 p.m. speech created that situation in this country where we have tremors and tremors continuing with a tsunami that's attacked the Indian economy. And that's what has happened.
Faisal Hussain, how does government make sense when we spend 3,000 crore on a statue and the following week take a loan of 100 crore for polio vaccination? Can you say this government has failed miserably at their job and is just trying to distract on every occasion?
I don't have to say much of this because you have asked a relevant question. 3,000 crore on a statue. And statue of who? Statue of Patelji, who banned the RSS. They don't have leaders, so they adopt our leaders, make big statues of them, and they think they belong to them. The reality is they send letters of apology, after which the ban was withdrawn. If they think our tall leaders are leaders, they must also acknowledge that Congress is not somebody on some party that can be overlooked. Congress is a crystal where you can see the real India. You cannot deny that Congress is also one of the pillars that on which our democracy has existed. And that's no denial. We would never do what has been done. We will step out of power. Whenever we have done any mistake, we will stand out, go to the people, talk to them. And power is not our ambition.
Akhilesh Srivastava, annually 11 million people leave the rural areas to live in the cities. How can this migration be stopped or reversed?
This can be stopped by developing infrastructure in the rural areas. My state in particular, I come from the state of Kerala, where the rural-urban divide is very, the borders are very thin. Essentially because you don't know when you move from a village to a town, development is everywhere. So the point is, unless you take development to the villages, this migration will happen.
Nishant Kumar, according to a newspaper report, Foreign investors have pulled out more than 3,600 crore from the Indian equity markets in the last 9 trading sessions, adopting a cautious stance towards the country. What does it mean to a common man?
Well, it just means that we are going through a very hard situation, but I won't be too shocked with the trade market, because they come back as soon as they find situation stable again. They are there for profits. They invest in India to get money, and when they make money, they are there. The fact that they are not making money in India, they are removing their investments out of India. That's a process where the international markets work on that way. But yes, it reflects a very strong opinion being expressed by the international community.
Harasa, how do you rate the NDA government's job on the economic front? And please do justify your rating.
Well, that's for the people to say. It's not for the Congress party. We are showing you a mirror. Have a look at it. Are you happy? The question is to be addressed by you, not us. If you're happy, then that would explain the happiness around. But if you're unhappy, if you're unemployed, if you don't have money, you don't have a job, and you have insecurity, law and order situation is weak, then there is a problem. And that are issues that need to be addressed immediately.
Mukim Khan, former finance minister of the NDA government, Sri Yashwant Sinha ji has been a staunch critic of NDA government's economic policy. What are your views on the same?
Well, Yashwant Sinha ji has been articulate on a variety of issues. He is right on most of the issues. But we have our line of thinking too. We have experts, economic experts, from Chidambaram ji to Jairam, Ramesh, to a variety of leaders who have their own mind on the economy. They have their own thought processes, and they are one of the brilliant minds in India. And I'm telling you now that if we are able to come back, we will be able to set the country on track. And that's the difference between the INC and the parties that preach and make promises. We will campaign, we will deliver, and the promises we make will be delivered. That's the difference between the INC and the Bharatiya Janata Party.
Abhishek Sharma, what were the good economic policies of the UPA government? They tried to shape the economy into one of the world's largest economies.
I don't have to go into an elaborate processes telling you what we did and what we should have done. No. We have done what the nation sees. We have generated employment through our schemes. They have tried to copy our schemes. They have renamed it. The policies are the same, but they do not know how to run it. They don't have the economic minds that we have. The mind that have been, who are responsible for formulating and delivering. They can copy, copycats can copy, but they cannot deliver because they don't have that brain power which the Indian National Congress has.
Somajit Jordar, we can find that the GST department officers are themselves not aware of the accounting system in regard to filing the GST return. What can be a possible solution to this?
Why blame the poor department officers? When you keep tweaking your policy line from time to time, before they get adjusted to the current policy, there is a tweak to suit your electoral processes. Before the Gujarat elections, you tweaked, and the policy lines that were followed were all changed to suit your electoral battle there. And now you're trying to do it again. So you must give time to these officers to get adjusted to this electoral issues that the present government is going through.
Amit Yadav, one of the purpose of demonetization was to create in a cashless economy, but subsequently we have seen notes of 2000 denomination being introduced in the economy. Does that really help?
This question is to be addressed to the government. They talked about demonetization, they talked about cashless society. Cashless you can be if you have rural India also connected with the internet and these facilities. And before internet comes in, you need to have electricity, you need to reach all those centers, and then only trade can flourish. You cannot overnight turn a country like India into a cashless society. I mean, this is a concept which probably even Muhammad bin Tughlaq would not have introduced.
And more Khurana, wouldn't be double standard for Narendra Modi to oppose GST while being the CM of Gujarat and proposing the same while in the centre?
Well, these are the double standards that they have been practitioners of. They did that with GST. They have done it with so many of the policies that we have been following. They talked about muscular policy against Pakistan. What are they doing? Nothing. Foreign policy. They talked about, when he was the chief minister, he kept telling us that he would give that red-eyed look to the Pakistan. Now, where is that red-eyed look? And where is the situation that the country is facing today? Nobody is bothered. As a chief minister, you may say many things, but when you come down to ground reality and you face the consequences, then you end up making films of that prime minister and call him the accidental prime minister. He was not an accidental prime minister. He was a selected prime minister who governed the country with astute economic policies in place, and to call him an accidental prime minister is a mistake which I hope he understands, because there are people waiting to call him the disastrous prime minister, probably the next book.
Ashish Kumar, our economy is set to produce jobless growth. How do you have transformed this economy into one where growth would produce additional jobs?
Well, we do not want to put all our methodologies in public domain. We have experts, we have brilliant minds. When the time comes, we'll show to you that we can deliver.
Arif Hussain, was the economy ready for the twin attack of GST and demonetization in a crucial juncture where our GDP could have raised past the GDP of China?
It is a classic case of operation successful but patient crippled.
Vivek Pandit, the implementation of GST has badly hurt the MSME sector. How could this damage be healed?
Get us back to power, we'll tell you how to do it.
Shruti Kumari, do you think that Rahul Gandhi would be able to take this economy to greater heights along with job creation as a priority, and why so?
Definitely. Rahulji has a vision and a team that supports him. He is concerned about his country. He is concerned about peace, and he is also concerned about development. So this combined will help us to see through this country, and a proper mechanism to deliver will also be in place. We not only make manifestos, we not only make promises, but we deliver. That's the difference between Rahul Gandhi and the present Prime Minister. Thank you for the time you've given to the Youth Congress and my humble discourse. Thank you very much.